Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, sometimes there's something in the music that just makes your heart sing, and guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with, once more, as always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. You know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are listening, keep listening and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, give us a little 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere, places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. Plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel, so if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, Letterboxd, the TikTok, and probably some other places I've completely forgotten about, at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. But finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us that ultimate kindness, come on by and pay us a visit. You know, sometimes it's just the music in a piece that really makes something sing. And believe it or not, we're going back into an Apple TV show. We're talking about more Apple TV. We love our Apple TV Plus. There's some great stuff on there. And nominated for not one, but 2 Emmys is composer Jeff Toyne for his work on Royale. Believe it or not, you can be nominated for not only music for the show, but music for the opening credit sequence. It's 2 different categories. I did not know that, and I think that's actually quite cool. But we talked with Jeff about getting the job and finding the right tone for the show musically and sort of the stuff they want to use and just how you sort of work it all in there with a show that has so much going on in it. It's again, it's one of those shows that really does hinge quite well on the music, but he really got into it in just terms of, you know, not much choice, but composing and just really the art of working on stuff constantly. Because, I mean, again, as a composer for film or television, it's one of those things where it really does feel like you have to constantly be working. And I mean, these guys really, really are. And Jeff gives a bit of insight just in the art they're in. It's Canadian too, so you got to hear it in the seats. We've got to support the Canadians because we love them. We're Canadian too, but we really like his work on the show, and he is nominated for Emmys, and we hope he wins. But as always, like we say, if you haven't checked out Palm Royale on Apple Plus, the streaming service, go sign up, check it out now, because there's tons of good stuff on there. You cannot go wrong. But first, enjoy our talk with double Emmy nominee Jeff Toyne, composer Jeff Toyne, because between you and me, it's a darn good one. Anyway, obviously, just, you know, thank you for the time today. I mean, obviously, congrats on the nominations for the show. How you feeling?
I'm starting to get used to it. It's been a week to settle in. It was quite a nice shock to have last week. I'm truly honored. It's very exciting.
No, I mean, I'm curious because I was kind of fascinated by the fact that you got nominated twice for basically doing the same job, which almost feels a little weird. Like, did you know, like, has there always been sort of this delineation between sort of opening title sequence and sort of the score when it comes to the Emmys?
Yeah, two separate categories. The and even when you're doing the job, it's 2 separate jobs. The when you're hired to do the show, you're usually hired to do the underscore,
Right.
and then you're kind of auditioning to have your music chosen for the or, you know, to
Okay.
the feed as well. And there's a lot of competition to use songs as main title themes in addition to custom scored main title themes. So it's very exciting. I'm really love the ability to be able to set the table for the audience with the main title and then have the score carry on with what we've established and set up. So that's artistically, it's really, really nice to be able
Well, I
to.
mean, I love that idea of like sort of auditioning for that thing because I never really thought of the process of, yeah, of course the score is going to come first because I mean, you know, they're shooting first. They're not thinking of the opening title sequence first. Usually that's one of the last things they're thinking about. But I mean, how do you feel having been able to do both jobs? Did your work on the score manage to do you feel like it informed your work on the title sequence?
Oh, absolutely. The title sequence is made up of the themes, the main themes from the show. The main character of the show, Maxine, it's basically her themes that comprise the main title. We and as we were developing the themes, it was really exciting to know that like, oh, this will make a really good, opening title. And it made sense too that the character of the main character, could, provide the overall character of the show.
No, I mean,
Uh,
I guess the next question is like when in this process for like when the show kicked off, like when did they bring you on? Was it early? Was it late? Like when in the process did you start getting involved with the show?
this show I was brought on, you'd probably say late. When I came in, they had already completed all the photography and a lot of the editing, and I think they'd even completed maybe one or two episodes, and were at the process of finishing the other episodes. But yeah, they were already a train well on its way into the station by the time I was brought on, and so. One of the things I suppose you could say that did was kind of freed me from the tyranny of self-doubt, because the deadline was just looming, and so you have a kind of a freedom to be creative, because you just have to be generative and create, and come up with ideas and see what works, and then just move as quickly as you can to produce them and record them and mix them and deliver them.
Does that change the dynamic of not just your job, but I mean, I can imagine even the creative process because I mean, obviously, as a composer, as a writer, as a creative person, like you're having to, I can imagine work on ideas and stuff kind of all the time. But you come to something, it's like, okay, I got to come up with something from scratch, or wait a minute, that thing I did 3 weeks ago, if I do that, this might work. Like, how do you sort of get it all together?
I think it might have been the painter Picasso said that inspiration should find you already working.
Right.
So one of the really nice things about signing on for a television series is that you're signing up for some period of time, a couple of 3, 6 months, where you're just going to be working. You're going to be generating material, day in and day out, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so you get used to the idea of just being creative. It's I'm a film composer. You're creative on demand, and especially in television, the demand is every morning as soon as you get up. And so yeah, it's the luckily for me, the well, for all of us, the process is collaborative. I'm not out there on a limb on my own. I have terrific filmmakers that I can look to for guidance and for notes and to help me shape the music, and I'm supporting their ideas, and when they hear it and they know it's right, then they're the first to tell me that's what we should do for the show. So I'm blessed to have a really fruitful collaborative history with the showrunner Abe Sylvia. Uh, and I'm also blessed with an amazing team on my side. My music team were very reliable and very creative and very fun to work with. So yeah, having those people, like I said, it's a collaborative art, and so you don't have to do it alone. It's the page is still pretty blank, but there's lots of help along the way once we get going.
But I mean, I can imagine it changes the dynamic too, because I mean, again, when people on the outside looking in think of the job of film composer, they have this image of John Williams standing above a 70-person pit, when in reality, it doesn't have to happen like that anymore. Like, how has technology kind of evolved the job, if that's probably the best way to put it?
One of the big changes I mean, look, before you get to the pit nowadays, you have to show proof of concept, and the technology allows us to show very, very convincing proof of concept. In the early days, you would just play your idea at the piano, and the filmmakers would have to rely on their ability to use their imagination to hear, okay, this is the piano demo. It's going to be recorded, say with an orchestra, and it's going to sound in a different way. As a composer, that's our bread and butter. We making that translation from a piano sketch to an orchestra is something that we can use our imaginations to do. But it's tough to ask the filmmakers to be able to do that as well. Nowadays, the technology allows us to make a mock-up and a demo that is pretty much here's what it's going to be even before we record it, so they can really feel comfortable with the music before we go into the studio.
Now, I've got to imagine that a show like this is sort of an extra layer of creative and sort of an extra layer of sort of payoff for a musician like you, because again, it's playing a lot of different styles. It's not a question of you're coming into, X movie or doing this or doing that. It's not like, it's not like Super Mario Brothers or something. It's like you're really getting to sort of combine a whole different bunch of stuff to make sort of the auditory language of the show. For you, is that kind of the creative payoff when you get to really play in multiple genres?
For this show, the style and the decisions that we made creatively were challenging and rewarding. The reward is that I get to do deep dives into these amazing composers of the '60s like Henry Mancini or Bernard Herrmann. And now the challenge is I'm not doing a show for space or for the future, and I'm not making music that no one's ever heard before. I'm making music that everyone knows what this is supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
And you can do it wrong. So it takes a baseline level of knowledge to be able to create this music and have it sound right. And so that was a great to take on, and I was very grateful for the help of some fabulous musicians to really bring authenticity to the the style, the jazz and the 1960s and the orchestra. So that was the balance. I really do like to take deep dives and really immerse myself in these sonic worlds. And for this show in particular, the showrunners wanted to approach the show not just that the show was set in the 1960s. We were actually kind of approaching the show as if we were scoring it in the 1960s, and so we were approaching it from that creative viewpoint. So that was really fun. I mean, for me, that meant a score that was melodic and very thematic and very bright and colorful, had a lot of orchestral colors and instrumental colors. So it was a real playground creatively and musically.
So almost method scoring. I mean, you didn't have to go and make sure you found an instrument that was made in 1957 or something, but you could really get to sort of immerse yourself in that style. It's really interesting.
Yeah, they were pretty strict when they licensed music for the show. There's a rare exception, but generally they didn't want to license pre-existing songs that the characters couldn't actually hear if they were there in the 1960s. And so I was, look, for this particular show, no synthesizers were harmed in the making of this score. It was a pretty retro kind of a score. So that was great fun and a great challenge. Now I didn't go all the way. I didn't record onto 2-inch tape, and I didn't use the giant old fashioned, the recording technologies come a long way. And even though there's a lot of talk about like that vintage vibe, I mean, there was a lot of shortcomings that we've improved upon since then. So we recorded it in a modern way, but we played it in a very, hats off to the way that they were doing it in the '60s.
Now I'm curious because what as a musician draws you into working in the film score world? Because I mean, obviously coming out of Sault Ste. Marie, not everyone necessarily comes out of school going, I want to be a composer. They come out going, I want to be a musician, I want to be in a band, XYZ. Like, what is it about film composing or TV composing or composing for the screen, however you want to word it,
that
draws you in creatively?
Well, as I was going through music school, the music that I was writing, studying concert music, had a dramatic quality to it, and stylistically I had a really eclectic palette, and so the music that I was writing just lent itself, could be useful for film. But I saw film and television today as the same way that I think Wagner thought of his operas when he was writing them.
Oh, yeah.
He called them Gesamtkunstwerk, right? A total artwork, right? Which means, it's a place where all these artisans would come together with their expertise, dancers, writers, choreographers, musicians, singers, and everybody would come together to create an artwork that was kind of greater than the sum of its parts, you know? And so I saw, film and television as that kind of artistic ideal, and with a big audience. Lots of people are enjoy film and television, and it's a place where somebody who wants to write music and who loves the orchestra is has a chance to be in the studio with a live orchestra. It's a really addictive thing. Once you go to the studio with the orchestra, you want to go back the next day. Uh,
What? Because I mean, obviously, the moving image is a form of storytelling, and obviously, music is a form of storytelling. But when you put it together, it adds different layers that, in many ways, are kind of hard to explain. From your perspective, what is it about the marriage of the two that is so magical that maybe a lot of people don't often think about?
um, it's hard to know. The when it I was talking about with somebody just recently about doing the Emmy campaign and trying to put the work in front of people, and for me, I had something that uh it turned out the score turned out really well, and we really wanted to share it with people. We were really excited about it, and I said, that look, filmmakers, every day, go about making movies and making television, and there's a lot of smart people, a lot of talented people, and they all go in with the best intentions, but it doesn't always, actually, it rarely works out. It rarely comes out on the other end great.
Yeah.
But when it does come out great, we call it magic, and that's what it feels like. It's movie magic. So it's pretty hard to do, and look, if we knew what the secret sauce was, we would do it every time, but we don't. And so we really want to celebrate it when it does become something really great. It's easy to get excited about it, like I am now. Uh, you know, Music together, when you're in the theater and the lights go down and the screen comes up. I mean, when it's good and it's working, I couldn't tell you what the score was. I'm just in it with the characters, and I'm there with the story, and just as much as the cinematography is affecting the audience, but on a subconscious level, I think the music works best like that. There's something on a subconscious level that I think works for the audience, so it could be strange to be at the moment in like a award season where people are talking about music that they noticed, because sometimes, often if you're it works best when you don't notice it. So it's a strange dichotomy for me.
But it can go the other way too, because I mean, obviously, you'll think of somebody like, I mean, this is a broad example, but I mean, you'll think of somebody like Evangelist that, obviously had a ton of misses, in between the Blade Runners and the Chariots of the Fires and all, everything else in between. It's like there are scores that stand alone. Now, I'm curious for you as the musician, not only as a musician, but as a viewer as well. Like, do you prefer the one that can stand alone, or do you want to make a piece that marries perfectly with all the other elements and all the other teamwork that goes into making a show like Palm Royal?
Well, I think that, to draw back to, the Wagner idea of these artisans bringing their expertise. I think, you look at somebody like John Williams, and, time and again, the stuff that he's doing for the movies is working on all levels in the film, and it's really enjoyable for people to listen to on the outside, because the level of artistry and craft that he's bringing to that music is really high. There's a level of detail, and there's a level of care, and so people can enjoy that on its own. And it it occasionally, you can score a scene and all the scene needs is a single line or a single held note, and something real, and simplicity can be the order of the day. And that's not a really fun listen on the soundtrack. But luckily for me, in this particular case, for this particular show, the music that works great for the show is pretty fun to listen to on its own. We had a great time. We had a blast making it, and so we're trying to enjoy this up. Sometimes this is the kind of music that the show needs, and sometimes the music that the show needs isn't we have to take one for the team and do something that's really simple and plain, or not, just not as exciting as an album or track or a concert piece. So again, it doesn't happen every time, and when it does, we're going to run with it and celebrate it.
Just to put a bow on this, can the composer, you, have a desert island sort of score that you would listen to or want to listen to if you had to? But also, as the composer, can you sort of wrap your brain around the idea that maybe 20, 30 years from now, there may be a composer going, you know what, man, I can't live without that work Jeff Toyne did on Palm Royale, man. It's one of those things that really inspired me. I can imagine as an artist, there's going to be that push and pull between acknowledging what was, appreciating what you've done now, but also sort of recognizing that what you've done could very well influence people in the future as well.
Wow. Well, it's people. Your question is phrased another way might be like, when I was working on the show, was I thinking at all like, oh, how is this going to play for people as an album, or how is this going to be heard on its own? And the answer is, you don't think about that at all. Like the music, it's due on Monday, man. We don't have any time. We don't have any time to worry about what anybody else might think. We want it just to work for the show. We want it to work as best as it can, and we want it to. For me, I work hard to make sure that it's real music and really good. And one of the things that happens is when you get you're going to be recording with these fantastic musicians. I mean, you got to bring the good stuff, and impress the musicians on the day. I mean, you can't show up with the weak sauce. You gotta have it sorted, and have the trombone voicings be right, and have the string parts be properly voiced. So so we put pressure on ourselves to do a good job, but we're not really thinking about anything other than let's just make a great show right now, and that's our because that's our deadline. And then for Desert Island scores, I really enjoyed being reminded of all the great stuff that Mancini did.
Right.
His stuff was fantastic. And boy, does the Bernard Herrmann stuff sound fresh.
It really does, doesn't it? Yeah.
It really it really ages really well. You could spend lots of time with those two things. I'd be happy to learn more about those. I was hoping that I would get more time this summer actually to continue digging into those guys.
So ultimately, last question. I mean, at the end of the day, does the creative payoff come for you as sort of the composer in the trenches working against the deadline, going, fuck, it's 5:30, I'm not happy with it, but it's good enough, and then going in on Monday and recording it, going, shit, that sounds way better than I thought it would. Is that sort of the payoff?
My wife will tell you that she's never heard me walk out of the studio and say, oh, that'll do. It never. It's more like, when are you coming out of there? And it's like, well, I got to get it right. I'm still at the stage of my career where I'm staying up late to try and get it right. But I'll get there. I'll get there.
Well, keep staying up late though, man, because that's what gets you double Emmy nominations. So I mean, I hope just good luck on the day. I mean, I know it's not the big Emmy. I don't know the technical awards, the process for the Emmy Awards with sort of the behind the scenes stuff. But I mean, I hope you get to go and dress up and do the whole thing. But honestly, man, just congrats on the work. Keep making Canada proud. I'm a Torontonian, so got a flag and just, man,
you got the real stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But just keep the good work, man. And just again, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.